All righty. So for folks that want to reach out, you can feel free to email me, info@mysmartcousin.com, and I'll just talk through these things. So the former CEO and CFO at a Fortune 500 company. So I'm sure most of you all know, Fortune 500 is just one of those short ways that businesses use to try to stack who's got a great big balance sheet. And so the Fortune 500 are the companies that have the 500 companies in the US that have the biggest balance sheet. So I work for one of them. You heard me talk about energy. I work for an energy company. Exelon, for those of you all that live here in Wilmington and get your Delmarva power bill. That's not my fault, I'm sorry. But I work for them. And then the CEO and the CFO are getting at I also had worked for another company, another big one, Southern company, and I had the chance to go overseas twice. First time to be the chief financial officer of a utility in the country of Jamaica, and that was about $1 billion company. And the second time was to be the CEO of a company in the Bahamas, and that was another energy company. So that's that credential. Then the real estate investor. So what is it that I do? I buy houses. I fix them up. I rent them out. Sheree actually worked with me on a house that was exactly that. Buying it, fixing it up, renting it out. 2531. So 25, I own 25 properties. 31, it comprises 31 doors. So since the 31 is bigger than the 25, that's getting at some of the properties are a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, things like that. So that's why it's a bigger number. And as far as where are these? New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania. New Jersey, Southeast Jersey. So we're talking Salem County, for those who are familiar with that county, Gloucester County, Woodbury, specifically in Gloucester, and then Cumberland County, Paulsboro. In Cumberland County. Delaware, right here in Wilmington. Pennsylvania, Chester. If you've heard of the city of Chester or the city of Coatesville, that's what we're talking. And then if you go on Instagram, Facebook, and just stick it in My Smart Cousin, you can find a bunch of articles. Free information, all free information there. This I'm going to ask you all to do, to take up your smartphones and just go ahead and scan that. Write down my name, Pam Hill, and then buy a house for the price of a car. You type that into Google, it'll come up. Pam Hill, buy a house for the price of a car. And that's how you'll be able to pull it up. So we'll go to the next slide. Let's start getting into some of the details. So what I do is I work folks who are interested in real estate investment. But it doesn't have to just be investment. It could be home ownership. So my husband and I, when we met, we were dating. He was living in Newark. I heard somebody mention Newark. And he was looking to buy. And Newark is a little bit on the pricey side. So he said, okay, let's look at Wilmington. So we looked in Wilmington, but we looked this way. Type on Google, looking for house, real estate. Further, max 60,000. Up comes Google, and up comes the regular real estate sites that you would be familiar with. Zillow is probably the most famous one. You go on Google and you go to Zillow. It may not necessarily have filtered to 60,000. So then we did that. We said, Zillow, only show us houses that are 60,000 or less. And maybe once we go, when we finish with the PowerPoint, we can actually go and physically navigate. We'll just do it and see what pops up. But by doing that, we capped the maximum price that the house was that Zillow would show us. Mm-hmm. Then we further said, hey, Zillow, we only want to see places that are row houses or single family houses, because Zillow and all the rest will show you every kind of property: land, a manufactured house, a condo, condominium, a co-op, a multifamily, a single family, a row house, and farms sometimes. Those will usually be the 8 categories. Well, we didn't want to see all of that. We just wanted to see a row house, like what's popular here in Wilmington, and a single family. So then Zillow shrunk the list to just that. We further told Zillow he wants only something that's at least 3 bedrooms. So that shrunk the list some more. So now maybe we were looking at, I don't remember the number because this was a while ago, but let's call it 100 houses. We then went to the real estate agent. Real estate agent said, hey, guess what? There's a program called Fannie Mae.
Mm-hmm.
And that's through something called Home Path, HOMEPATH.com, homepath.com. He said, look for houses that say they are home path. Why? Because Fannie Mae, and they are the ones that typically underwrite a house. Let's say if you want to buy a house and you're like, oh my God, no bank wants to lend to me. They're usually happy to lend to you if you have something called an FHA mortgage. I think that's Federal Housing Administration. But anyway, as we know, life be life, and sometimes you fall behind, and sometimes it's worse than fall behind. You actually can't pay. And so the government takes back the house. Right. Well, when Fannie Mae takes back the house, they say, hey, we now own it, right? Because you stepped in, so now this is our house. So now when somebody says, I want to buy it, Fannie Mae says, great, we have something called a first look. For the first 20 to 25 days, the only person who can buy that house is someone who wants to live in the house, a homeowner. And that was him. So people like me, and back then I wasn't even investing. I was just like, okay, you want to buy a house? I bought one before. Let's see if I can help you with this. So we went to first look. Fannie Mae said, great, you're going to live in this house. We love it. It's on Hill Street. If you all know where Governor Prince, where the Popeyes is, that's where he bought. Right down Hill Street. The house was listed for $27,500. And he bought it in I think, I'm going to call it 2013, thereabouts. And the very first thing I said when I saw it was, I do not believe you can buy a house for the price of a car. That's what led me to buy a house for the price of a car, because I couldn't believe it, and I still cannot. So Fannie Mae, because he was looking to live in the house, said, okay, we'll help you. You think the price is a little high? I think they came off by $1,000 or $2,000. And they worked with the bank, and so he bought the house. After that first look period expires, if he didn't buy, then that's when Fannie Mae says, okay, investors or whomever, we'll now talk to you. But that's why the Fannie Mae program is so useful. Homepath.com is the dedicated website that Fannie Mae uses to show all the houses they have in their inventory across the entirety of the United States. And of course, filter for just Delaware or wherever you are. So that's how we got into this.
How long do you have to live in the house?
Fannie Mae doesn't have a requirement, like a hard and fast, thou shalt live here for the next 10 years. They simply, everything is good faith. I'll be honest with you. They don't come back and say, let's see if Richard's still living here. Let's see if Richard moved in at all. They don't do that. They just simply rely on your good faith word. I would guess that if you came to them year 1, year 2, year 3, here's another house I'm living, and then here's another one I'm living. Well, how many places can a person live in as their primary residence, right? 1, right? This is where you live. So that would raise a flag. But if you're going to buy it, because let's say you've got the best credit in the household, but you're not going to live there, they're not going to know, and they probably won't even fundamentally care as long as nothing bad goes down.